Okay, we're going to call to order the Board of Directors Personnel Committee for Newburgh School District 29J, Wednesday, September 4th, 2024. And we are in the boardroom at the district office and have Director Woodward and Director Wolfer and Director Bridges who make up the Personnel Committee. Thank you. We are going to review the agenda and see if we have any additions or deletions. But scheduled on the agenda is to discuss and amend the draft hiring timeline that had been presented to the board August, whatever date that was, August 26th or 27th. And we're going to discuss the qualities and qualifications, develop the interim superintendent posting, and develop contract parameters, establish next meeting date and time if needed, and then adjourn the meeting. And I think it'd probably be fine for us all to have our microphones on. That way we're not we're just capturing the conversation and not having to sort of go back and forth. So if we look on the timeline for the hiring that we presented to the board. This is Claudia Stewart had put out a online qualities and qualification survey, and that has closed, or we have information about those qualities and qualifications. There were 55 individuals who provided responses, and Claudia has distilled that information very skillfully. We're obviously meeting today. Our regular session of the board, which is September 10th, we will adopt the hiring timeline and approve the posting. And as soon as that is approved, I will be sending that over to COSA that evening, and they will post the position with COSA, OSBA, and WSSDA on the 11th. And on the 17th, we are scheduled for the Personnel Committee to prepare draft interview questions and interview process with submissions from all board members. On the 19th, we're scheduled for the Personnel Committee to finalize interview questions and board priorities for the responses. On September 20th, the position will close. All of the applications are going to COSA. They won't be sent to the district office. Then the Personnel Committee will review the applications on the 21st and the 22nd. Of September, which is a Saturday and a Sunday.
Got it.
And I am going to be out of town the 17th through the 26th, so I will have to zoom in for all of those components.
I have a question. COSA will probably respond. But when we first started this, they said that until you get to the two finalists, that most people want to have anonymity, be anonymous, because they don't really want maybe their current employee to know they're looking or something. How does that work with open meeting laws?
Well, we would have to do some of that in executive session. I think that there's been some conversation. I think Lisa talked about it at the meeting.
I think that's what, and Sherwood just went through this. They just hired a new superintendent this year, and that's what they did. Is most of it was an exec. I think no one except the people in that room knew who the finalists were. So until the end.
Yeah. And of course, it also depends on how many applications we get and whether or not the applicants are comfortable with us, and if we are getting retired applicants, it might not be, an issue.
Yeah.
So,
but we could easily get full-time ones because many districts and interim becomes a permanent. So
yeah. So then we need to, looks like they have a scheduled for the screening and error. Okay. Narrow to the finalists. Then we'll do conduct reference checks and site visits, a staff forum, and a community forum would both be on the same date, which would be September 26th. Now, I don't know if I will be back in town at that time, but I don't have to be there. That's not the critical function is for staff to meet
Mhm.
and the community. Then we would receive feedback on the 27th, continue with reference checks as needed, and then interviews on 10/1. And I think we need some clarification of who's doing the interviews. Is it the personnel committee?
For
Is it the
finalists,
that's the finalists, that's the whole board.
I think when there was two possibilities, I think one of the things they talked about was the personnel committee could do some interviews and then present a slate of finalists to the board. And then the board as a whole would do the final interviews. So if we're down to 2 or 3, then we would have that be. So I just don't know if that 10/1 would be us doing that, or would that be the whole, because at some point I think it's important that the whole board is
I think at 10-3, if you have 2 or 3 finalists, it'd be the entire board.
on 10/1, or
Yeah, 10-1.
yeah, if we're able to narrow it down. So
So I think obviously we'll know more on the 20th because that's when the position closes. We'll have a better sense of
Yeah.
how many applicants we'll have.
Okay.
And we can revise this schedule.
Right.
and one, yeah, and COSA and us and other review, we may be able to pretty easily pick out some standouts from that. You just never know.
Yeah.
Till you get, but if we have 20 amazing applicants, we may need to have some, I mean, I know we have a compressed timeline, but
Yeah. Yeah. 20 amazing candidates would be fabulous.
I'm just trying to be an
You
optimist.
are an optimist, and that's great.
Little optimism is needed this year.
So contract negotiations, the second and the third regular session of the board would be October 8th
Mhm.
to approve the hiring and contract signing. And then work with Claudia Stewart to develop the entry plan, which I believe she's already working on. Dr. Radich contract ends on the 13th, and the hope would be somebody would start on the 14th.
I could see it being even like that meeting on the 8th, if we were down to 2 or 3 even, and then an executive having the board or open. I don't know how it works, but
Mhm.
I think that we could do it in exec, but yeah, I think for initial hire, we can do that in exec. I could see doing that. Like if we are like, here's your 2, here's your 3, and then the board picks one, and then that night, kind of like we do for board members.
Right, and then we just have to make sure that the contract component is in open session.
Mm.
Yeah,
To comply with
yeah.
laws. So, and I think COSA will help
Yeah,
sort of
guide that.
further dial down into the schedule. So I think we're still good with the version of this, that we might be able to move it from draft, but also recognize that we have to update it on the website if we're going to make some changes.
Yeah, I think, and if we need to adjust as we need, I think we all know that it's a compressed timeline, so we'll just have to adjust as needed. So
Yeah. Are there any thing we're missing? I really, I think one of the big, most important components is the 26th, September 26th, where staff and the community have opportunities to meet the finalists. It's a really important one. And then
mhm.
thorough background checks.
And COSA does that as well.
COSA does that as well, although Dr. Radich suggested that we could also, do some background checks.
Mm-hmm.
So are we good with the timeline?
I think the timeline looks good. It's really compressed, but we're in that situation to have a compressed timeline.
Mm-hmm.
And are you both available the 21st, 22nd to
Mhm.
review those applications?
Yeah, the only thing I have is my daughter starts soccer
Oh, fine.
starting next Saturday. So like 9 o'clock at the CPRD thing. So I got
Oh,
that. So outside of that, just the morning I'm around. So
I'm available. I have one commitment for about an hour and a half on the 21st, but I can.
So,
But we
Okay.
wouldn't be meeting all day, both days.
no, not at all.
So, yeah.
Okay, so are we feeling comfortable that we move this out of draft form
Mhm.
for the agenda for next week?
I think we can move it out of draft form, but we always have to have somehow listed subject to,
Subject to change.
subject to change if necessary.
And then also maybe date the
Right.
any revision
Revisions, right.
Yeah,
dates.
any revision dates, yeah. Because it also may not be us. We may be free, but COSA or the candidates may need something moved or this or that. So especially if they are currently employed elsewhere, it is the beginning of the school year.
Right,
So
right. And we'll have to cross that bridge when we get to it. But if the new superintendent isn't available as quickly as we would like, we'll have to do a contingency plan.
mhm.
Um,
I just don't think we can be held in, like a stone on a timeline that we don't have all the control of.
right.
Well, there's just a lot of moving parts there and a lot of, with my optimistic outlook of 20 candidates, we may need to, listen, I'm going into this school year with all the optimism I can muster. So
I
I'm
think
gonna
that's
try.
fabulous.
I'm ready. This
Well,
is
you
the
know what?
year.
Newburgh has some challenges, but it's a fabulous community and school district for anybody to come to. So, okay, so let's move on to the qualities and qualifications next. And COSA had given us a draft of a posting, which did include some of the some standard qualities and qualifications. We got the survey had 55 people respond, and I think that's fabulous given, the timeline. And this document that is 7 pages long has all of the answers that people have submitted. The single page document that's both sided has condensed by category. So I'm just gonna, because I don't think that these are on the website, but we'll get them posted. The responses highlight several key qualities that a school superintendent should possess. Honesty and integrity is one.
Mhm.
2 is communication skills. 3 is non-political and unifying. 4 is empathy and compassion. 5 is leadership and teamwork. 6 is educational and fiscal expertise. 7 is community engagement. And then on the back side, it says, according to the responses, the main qualifications desired are a little different, but sort of worded different. Experience in education and leadership, financial and budgeting expertise. And that is an addition that COSA has started to put into other postings, which in our draft says the board is seeking a candidate that have Oregon superintendent experience
Mhm.
and a deep understanding of school funding and the state school fund formula. Clean work history and integrity is number 3. Number 4 is community and self and staff engagement. And number 5 is knowledge of policy and special programs.
Yeah, I
So
like that.
These qualifications emphasize the need for a superintendent with both practical experience and strong ethical leadership to guide the district through financial and educational challenges.
I think if we just post this one page, front and back.
Yeah.
With our minutes, just post this with minutes on the website.
When it goes out to candidates, so one idea I had too was we do have 2 policies regarding superintendent, CB and CBA, it's superintendent qualifications and duties. And I just think it'd be great if we attach them to it so that any candidate can see what our current policy is.
What are the 2 policies?
It's CB and CBA. So it's just the first one's just titled superintendent. And it talks about things, the first, it's pretty short, but they're the chief executive officer under the board's direction. They're responsible for all things. I think important is the second paragraph that they may delegate to other district personnel powers and duties, but that the responsibility still falls on them regardless of delegation. I think that's very important with the situations we've found ourselves in the last few years. And then the second one, CBA, its qualifications and duties of the superintendent, talks about reporting to the board, implement board policy, and all the rest. And so it kind of boils down a lot of this stuff, but it also is our specific current policy. So I think that would just be good if it's attached. Doesn't necessarily need to go in here, but that way they can just see what our current policies are.
Well, and I don't know when those policies would have been
Mhm.
revised or looked at, but it might be
Mhm.
a good time to also
Yeah.
do that.
Looks like the superintendent CB was last revised in 2022. And CBA was last revised in 2013. So I think we could look at some updating too, but I think it'd just be good for them to see that. And that might even be a discussion point in interviews of, hey, looking at these policies and understanding our history, is there anything that you may want to suggest to the board? Because I know for me, it's always good to have some guidance from a superintendent on
Right.
policies and things. I think it's always good when you have a strong superintendent who can help guide us.
Well, and I think that that is exactly the relationship. It's the board, but the back and forth. And I think that that guidance and, helping keep us on track is critical. So when you look at this one-page document, and if I look back at the draft, which the draft was a servant leader who puts students at the heart of everything we do. 2 is a proven leader who demonstrates integrity and humility with a history of bringing people together, building morale and trust. Demonstrated competence in school finance, a history of outstanding fiscal management and strong budgeting skills. Practices transparent, truthful communication and a collaborative decision-making process. Utilizing diverse perspectives to resolve conflict. Ability to engage and draw a community together by communicating effectively both orally and in writing, and builds effective collaborative teams with varied areas of expertise.
And I think those are all great. I feel like that does
So,
kind of
yeah, I-
covers most everything and it distills it down a lot.
because it's communication.
I think maybe the piece that we, number 2, experience in education and leadership. The education part there, practices might need to be added on the list that we have.
Oh, so number 1, experience in education and leadership.
Yeah.
Because we have a lot about leadership. You're right. Yeah, we don't have anything about really education
Yeah.
other than you could add that to the number 1 on the draft, a servant leader who puts students at the heart of everything we do with a history or with a proven history and competence in education.
And education and leadership, yeah.
Yeah, because we have number 2 is about leadership. So you could add number 1 there about, making sure that they're a proven, they're a proven educator. And I think that goes well because really it's ultimately about putting students in there. We're here to educate kids. So
I think that the financial and budgeting is covered in number 3.
Well, and plus with the header,
Right.
it also has that.
Right.
So before we move on, I just want to make sure that I'm getting the language right for this, the servant leader. So a servant leader who puts students at the heart of everything we do.
with proven experience in education.
Okay. All right.
Because I really like that and a lot of the other things, a proven history of leadership, a proven, and so I think that's good with proven proven, education. So
Well, we don't really have, so clean work history and integrity, a clean and scandal-free work history with no negative incidents or pending lawsuits. I think that would be important for a background check,
yeah,
is to determine that.
I do think that's somewhat, that's very aimed, but I feel like number 4, transparent, truthful communication. I think that does. Yeah, you're right. It's going to be covered in a background history. And also I think part of that is, it's not, your past shows your future. And I think that's part of that. When they're practicing transparent, truthful communication, we're going to understand that. I don't know. So
It also should come under reference checks.
Well, and number 2 says a proven leader who demonstrates integrity and humility.
yeah,
We could also put in ethical leadership. That is,
Well, integrity and humility is ethical.
What if you wrote a proven ethical leader? On number 2. Just add the word ethical in there.
okay.
Who demonstrates integrity, and I think that covers it. Because I don't want to say like they have to have, I get what they're trying to go here with the clean and scandal free, but I do believe people can learn from mistakes, but I want to see not recent things or things that people have overcome and that they've shown integrity and
Yeah.
ethics. So I think that'd be good. I feel like number 4 is covered. Community staff engagement, it talks about that in a few points.
Mm-hmm.
The transparent, truthful communication.
And then number 5,
Five.
drive the
Number 5.
community together. Knowledge,
Well,
that
and
policy
number
and
6
special
too.
programs, that's not covered on that one.
Where is that one? The knowledge of,
It's 5 on the sheet.
Piece 5, knowledge of policy and special programs, familiarity with laws, policies, and regulations affecting schools and special authority, understanding support of special education, bilingual education, and diverse student populations.
I wonder if we put that in
The top,
the top, because that has, candidates must experienced and proven leader with strong academic credentials and a district and building level administration background to serve as interim superintendent. Candidates must possess Oregon license, allowing the candidate to serve as superintendent. We could put it with the board is also seeking candidates,
Yeah.
and maybe
you just expand on that a little
the
bit.
familiarity with laws, policies, and regulations affecting schools, especially within Oregon. We could put number 5 really as an anchor
Right,
Mhm.
statement.
I think with that, yeah, because we're looking for deep understanding of school funding and state school formula, as well as you could even say laws, policy, and regulations affecting schools.
Okay.
Because I think that's if we have both those things, it's going to be hard to go wrong.
Yeah. Okay. I think that looks good. Well, I can, write this up and I'll send it off to Krista.
And then she will send
Mary.
send us an updated one for our board
Mhm.
on Tuesday,
Yeah.
next Tuesday.
So we have a no later than October 14th date, but that may not, we may have to work within that. Salary and benefits competitive and commensurate with experience level. I believe that Krista is going to be providing us with a sort of a review of similar sized districts. I think we'd asked for something similar to that. And Krista said that they have that for all of the superintendents. And we can have that by the 10th.
Is that part of excuse me, our next agenda item was contract parameters?
Oh, yeah.
Is that part of that? Are they going to
It
help
would
us
be.
develop that contract?
Yes.
Because I think one thing after, I know when we were looking at Dr. Phillips' contract back in February, we looked at several other districts, and one thing that I would like to see is just a more simplified, easier to understand, because there was a lot of questions about this one that we had as a board, the public had. And you look at some districts around, and the contracts were so much easier and straightforward and able to understand. And I think that would be
Well,
Yeah.
if you look at not the June 2023 contract,
Mhm.
but the one that was prior to
Right.
that,
The initial
that is the
contract.
one that Lisa Freely helped write, and it was much clearer.
Was the interim one or the
No,
no, the
Well,
one
there
that's
was an
19.
interim, and then there was the
There's
one that
the
sort
initial-
of, yeah,
For 2 years, there's a 2-year.
The-
because
oh, the
that
initial
contract
contract,
was
yeah.
much
Yeah.
easier to understand and read.
So
So,
I think if we just pass that to COSA, that it would just be nice if it was a lot easier to understand.
well, and actually, COSA won't be creating the
Oh, okay.
real contract, but they will,
Co-
our attorneys will do that. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think that
Perfect.
utilizing that,
So,
and I totally agree with you about difficulty in reading and making sure it's all clear and understood.
so does COSA put under salary and benefits with experience like a range? Do they put like a range like from, like say 165,000 to 185,000 or something?
And looking at what is in similar districts our size, but also balancing sort of,
Yeah. Okay.
Surrounding areas.
Yeah, because I think that's very important, because it is, we are surrounded by, a couple school districts, and they, I don't know. I think too, when we talk with that, I don't know if this is all part of it, but I just would like to see, I'm less concerned about the salary is the fringe benefits, because I feel like our district, not to revisit all this stuff before, but like, there was one argument that, well, this is standard, but I don't feel like it was standard for our area. And if you look at the Willamette Valley area, the Washington County things, and look at most of those contracts that we were able to find, I feel like we all tried to find them, and those benefits were not what is done here. And I think that if we want to make that, I think the community wants to see that. I want to obviously get what we pay for, and and a lot of the districts are paying well now, but I think it's some of those other ones were just things that were kind of controversial, and I'd love to make this as least controversial contract as possible.
Yeah. And when we worked with Lauren from, what's the WESD in Central Oregon?
High Desert.
High Desert.
High Desert.
That contract was not typical for the area that they worked either.
Yeah.
And so,
It's
you're
not
right.
something, yeah, I would like to just see that personally. And I think that, and I'll just say one of the things that stood out to me in the last contract that I didn't love is, even the cell phone plan. I would love to see like in my work, I get provided a phone for district usage, and that just takes that right out of the equation. So I think if we do something like that, or different, just those little things, I think it's not hard to provide a phone. And
I
then
agree. Well, I think if you were to look back at the contract prior to the one that we were trying to amend, it
Yeah.
just doesn't have all that stuff in it quite like that. Okay. Let me go back at the agenda again.
Yeah, it's a develop contract parameters.
So the posting we've worked, so the contract parameters, I don't know that that's something we're really gonna do today.
Okay, that was why I was jumping into that.
Yeah.
But
But we'll put that on for,
I think, yeah, we'll need to do a deeper dive, but I just wanted to throw that out while I was thinking about it, that's
although I think it would probably be good to sort of incorporate that conversation next Tuesday.
Mhm.
And
Like an open session with everyone.
I can maybe, we could talk with Lisa about, how to look at that.
Yeah, and I think that actually might be something. I mean, we're gonna have a new superintendent. That may be good to have on the agenda for us to talk about, and then public comment can be heard about it too, because and obviously it's a polarized community, but I'm sure that there are thoughts on both sides of what they'd like to see. And I think, obviously the superintendent ultimately works for the public too. So I would like to hear what the public has to say about some of those things.
Right. So then I guess we go back to the calendar and we look at what is the personnel committee's next meeting
Well, we have to have everything ready. I mean.
for the 10th.
For the 10th. And so, and that we're, you taking notes, and with Krista from Costa's help, we'll have the posting ready for the board to approve, right?
Yeah. I
So
wonder,
that's taken care of.
and I can check with Krista to see if she can
Yeah.
zoom into the board meeting
Right.
for the 10th.
And so
Yeah.
then it's posted. So then the next thing, until we, on the 17th was when we were going to have, to get interview questions and processes of submission. So all board members would submit all their questions to us, and we would then draft. So in an interview, fair process, you need to ask the same questions to all.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, very standard would be good. So
Yeah. So that'd be the 17th.
So that's
is
the
next,
17th.
Right.
Okay.
and that is on Tuesday the 17th. That's when you're gone.
That is the day I am traveling, so it might be a little difficult for me to,
on the 17th.
yeah.
Well, that's just when,
We could do it on another date, like on the 18th. I mean,
well, that doesn't mean we have to meet either.
Right. So submissions from all board members.
Because really what that could do is, if you're traveling, maybe Nancy and we could handle that, because it doesn't necessarily need to be a meeting. If it's just based on what everyone's sending, we could write it up. Right. We could distill it down, kind of like these were, distill it down to,
Well, and do we want to do a draft of questions so that it's not, as board members, you're not trying to think about what all of the
Yeah.
questions are?
Right,
And then, because we can utilize, there's just a lot of standard questions that you would ask.
right. COSA
And
probably has some standard questions.
They do. I think that they do.
yeah, so if we took that and then we combine those with anything else that the board has thought of, and then I see on the 19th is when we finalize it.
Right,
And so that's when we could meet. We could kind of distill it down, Nancy and I, and then if you're zooming in on the 19th,
I can zoom in. on
That's
the
when we
19th,
could-
Yeah.
make, finalize our questions in a committee meeting based on what we type up.
so the board would just be able to individually send their questions to James and to me individually. And then on the 17th, James and I can meet just informally, not a committee, just,
Maybe at the-
It
maybe-
has to still be posted as a
okay,
committee.
well, then we'll meet on Zoom.
Yeah.
As a committee
Yeah.
Which one?
on the 17th.
Okay, yeah.
And then on the 19th, you will zoom in and we will have have to finalize them. Does that sound good?
Yep.
So do you want to have these meetings at what time? 4:30,
4:30 would work better. Normally I work till 4, so
4:30 PM? Okay.
yeah, 4:30 or 5, whatever.
On
Or
the
5?
17th?
Is 5? better
Yeah,
for
we
you?
could do 5, then I can
5
pick
work
up
for
my
you?
kids.
I'm looking on the 17th and 19th. Yep.
9th.
Maybe one thing we could do to make it easier is let's on the 10th at a regular board meeting, ask the board to start thinking of questions and start getting us questions by the 17th.
Yeah.
But do we want to give them draft questions added? So they're not just trying to all come up with all the original?
Yeah, if COSA had draft questions, it'd be helpful for us to send
Okay.
that out.
Yeah, maybe we can add that to the agenda for Tuesday and show them some COSA questions and then say, here's some, and have it in the board packet. And then they can send us anything else by the 17th. And then we will distill it down on, Nancy and I could do a quick meeting on the 17th, distill it down. And then on the 19th, finalize it when you're back.
No, on Zoom.
Yeah, that's what I mean. When you're back in service, not traveling. So
Right.
we can do a quick. I mean, I don't. If those are all we're talking about on those, I feel like those will go quick.
Okay.
That will go quick. Yeah.
Yeah, 5 PM. Okay.
So 5 PM on the 19th.
Yep.
Okay.
And 5 PM on the 17th.
All right.
So James, we'll meet here on the 17th.
Or you could even do it by Zoom if we're
Yeah.
all going to be on Zoom or.
Might be easier if we meet in person to type it out
Yeah, right.
for the 17th, and then I think the 19th we could
Right.
we can figure it out. So
Right.
all right.
To the position and close. And so my question is, if we review applications, that's the question I have. And there's, people want confidentiality and the three of us, do we have an is it possible to have an executive session for a personnel committee or? I don't know the answer.
Yes, you can do an exec, but it would still have to fall under those.
Yeah, for
all the-
hiring.
Yeah.
Sure. I know
So-
I know that.
We can talk to Lisa
I
and
think the only thing I was talking about was we can't do, and I'll have to go back again, but I was looking at it today and it's like we can't talk about salary and executive, things like that. But it's more, I think exec would be more about the actual candidates. So yes, as a personnel committee, we can go into executive to talk about the candidates.
Right. Because that would be on the 21st and 22nd when we review the application.
Yeah. So we can do that. We just have to properly notice it. And
Okay.
but we're probably not gonna get people to come to an executive session.
well, screening interviews and narrow to finalists. So we could,
We could do that executive session on the 24th.
yeah.
Okay.
So we could do a personnel committee executive session, screening interviews, and
So when we review the applications, we're just going to have the printed copies.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's not
That's a meeting.
actually not a meeting. So
we
the
just get-
20, so it says DDO, but that won't be a meeting. We'll all do that independently.
Yeah. Okay.
which one are you looking at?
On the Saturday, Sunday, the 9, 21 and 22.
Yeah, they'll just email it to us.
So that's going to need to be a revision to the,
Draft.
yeah.
So that means that,
We We need to add an executive session to
The 24th.
24th.
Well, that doesn't even need to be the whole board though, because that's narrowed to finalists. So that would still
Well,
be.
the whole board might want to be involved.
Okay. Yeah, honestly, I think at
Be a
that point,
good idea.
Yeah.
I think it'd be helpful to have the whole board on the 24th.
yeah. Get them in their input. Reference track site visits, yeah.
Do you think, this is a question. Is there a purpose for us to review the application instead of the whole board see the applications if we're gonna just talk about an executive session? Could the whole board, I mean, I suppose it depends on the number of applications we have.
I want to look back at what we were supposed to, because we were supposed to provide, the board as a whole told us to provide the board with a slate of finalists. And and I'm trying to see how and there's really, is that going to be COSA is bringing that down to us? Or do we need to have one more meeting as just the personnel committee to whittle it down? I think it depends how many we get.
Yeah, I think,
Because I mean, it says they're going to review applications, transmit to board leadership on the 20th.
yeah,
Personnel committee reviews applications on that set. So we may need to do on that night, the 21st or 22nd, if there's a ton of them, we may need to meet as a personnel committee on the 21st or 22nd as an exec.
Well-
If like, say, like I was saying earlier, if we got 20 and then they give us 10, we may need to narrow it down to 4 to give on Tuesday or something.
Right.
we'll need to get some clarification on that because what we will run against is if it closes 5 PM on the 20th, because I think that's,
Yeah,
we won't have time to notice
True.
an executive session.
We may need to add one for Monday. If it depends on how many we get, I think. So we could
Yeah.
add one to that Monday, like potential personnel. But if we only get 3 or 4 that they send us, I think that's our slate of finalists.
Yeah.
So it's really going to depend. And if we only get one, that
Yeah.
COSA, that makes it through everything in background, and well, that backgrounds are late.
well, yeah, so that, I guess, the personnel committee reviews the applications would be fine, just leave it, and then it's not gonna be at the district office. By
Right.
individually,
Well, but I think we want to change how that looks.
yeah,
So that, that the community doesn't think that we're having a meeting that day.
right.
So I think that's going to be a change to the,
So that shouldn't say district office. it should-
Well, my other thought that I had is if it closes on Friday, we could notice right now that we were going to do a meeting on either the 21st or 22nd in exec, because we can always cancel. So if we only get 2 or 3, we can always say, hey, we don't need
But
this.
COSA may not have had time
That's
to
true.
compile things, because if it closes on Friday, they're not working on Saturday or Sunday. I mean, that's another concern.
yeah.
What if we move that to Monday? Or we add one to Monday. So if they send it to us and then Monday, the 23rd, we could add a meeting in just in case. So we make sure we don't run afoul of any public meeting law and say that we would do a potential, we could notice a potential executive session to review and narrow it down. Because I don't want to give, 15 candidates to the board,
Yeah.
but
Right.
and yeah, so we can always cancel it. If we're like, hey, we got 2 good candidates here, let's just cancel this.
And the executive session is the whole board.
No, I meant Monday, the 23rd, we could have a personnel committee executive session
Okay.
on there that if we put that on now.
Okay.
And then we can always cancel it. And then
Yeah.
Tuesday executive, then, so we narrow it down Monday, and then Tuesday, those are the ones that are invited to.
Okay.
Because that would actually give us time too. So Monday we review it. If say we have 10 candidates, we whittle it down to 4 or 5 or whatever. Then Monday night we can invite all of those finalists to come, Tuesday for our executive session and say, hey, you were chosen as a finalist. Are you available? And then that gives us time. So,
Yeah.
and actually that might be good to keep on there anyway, because even if we only have 2 or 3, then we can still contact them and make sure they're available for that
Well, they
Tuesday.
They wouldn't be coming for, screening
It's like
interviews on
screening
the
interviews.
24th. Yeah, they would be coming.
I mean, I think any candidate sees this and sees the narrow timeline. So I think, and we'll see this hopefully we'll see this on our board and we can tell them. But I think that having that Monday, the 23rd, meeting available for us. And even if we cancel the executive part, we meet in open, say, hey, we're gonna contact the 3 candidates we have and tell them to make sure they're available tomorrow, so,
Right.
but either way.
You're thinking, Deb.
No, I think it's good.
So-
I was
so-
just thinking about the next step of getting this
Yeah,
draft changed and whatnot. I
okay.
think it's good. I think it's a good process. I wish we had a little more time.
Yeah.
Uh,
All right.
okay.
It said establish next meeting date time if needed.
Well, I think that is on
It's
the,
calendar.
on the
so
calendar.
Perfect.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Anything else for the good of this committee meeting before we adjourn?
No, did we do the whole agenda there?
Let's look at that.
Next meeting time if needed. Well, we already know. It's gonna be needed.
Well, then, so we'll just, for the good of the order, say that the next meeting is September 17th
Mhm.
at 5 PM. It'll be by Zoom.
Yep.
And Director Woodward and Director Wolfer will be attending, and I will attend if I'm in a spot where I can.
But if.
Depending
not,
on-
don't worry.
Yeah, because I think,
5 p.m. would be 8 p.m. Eastern time.
yeah, I might actually be able to, depending on
If your flight's
flights
delayed.
going.
I understand.
Because we are flying south, through the southern
Mhm.
part of the country, and that can be a little tricky
Mhm.
for storms. So, okay, thank you to the community for attending and watching.
Uh,
And we are going to adjourn, and we're going to turn off the Zoom link.